My friends, what's going on, guys? My name is Kai. Welcome to the Sober Living channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. Please like and subscribe. It really helps my little channel out. My name's Kai. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I use my expertise in addiction to teach the world about it and try to make this world a better, more understanding place. My friends, I hope you're doing well tonight. It's raining here in southern Ontario. It's a cold night, so I'm kind of stuck inside. And I had an idea for a video that I don't think I've made so far. But I want to talk to you guys about it. And what I'd like to talk to you about is my time in rehab. I want to kind of do a deeper dive into what it was really like for me. I know I've told a couple stories from rehab, but I'd like to tell you the whole story. So let me begin. The rehab that I went to, Homewood Health Center in Guelph, Ontario, I had already gone there when I was younger. I had gone there when I was about 22 years old, and it just didn't work for me the first time. The first time that I went, I wasn't prepared to quit yet. I hadn't hit rock bottom yet. It was really something where my doctor signed me up for it, and I was on a waiting list for 8 or 9 months, and then they just called me one day randomly and said, hey, you know, we have a bed open, do you want to come in? So I didn't have any time to prepare for it mentally or anything like that. I just kind of went, you know? And that really sucked because I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready for it. I thought I might be ready for it, and to my own surprise, back then the program was 30 days, and I made it to 29 days. I left the night before the program finished because I needed to drink. I couldn't stand it any longer. Even though I had gone without alcohol at that point for 29 days, it didn't matter to me. I needed to get out of that hospital ASAP and get to a bar. And that's exactly what I did. When I got home from rehab, I went immediately to the bar. I dropped my luggage off at my house, and I went to the bar, you know? So the first time I went to rehab, it really didn't work for me. But the second time it did. The second time it did 100%, because when I went into rehab the second time, I went in with 100% the intention to get better, you know? If you look at my channel, if you look at the very first like 10 or 15 videos, they're all videos from me when I was in rehab, when I just got to rehab. Some of the days, there's even day one on there. And you'll see my attitude. You'll see that my attitude isn't something of somebody who doesn't want to quit. You can see that in my older videos, I'm going through some stress, for sure. But you can also see that I'm progressing well, because the thing is, when I went into rehab the second time, I needed to quit. I needed to quit or it was going to kill me. So I went in, hands down, 100% right into it, you know? One thing that I was really happy that I did this time that I didn't do last time, the first time I went to rehab, was I detoxed prior to going to rehab. So in anticipation to going to the hospital, I was meeting with the doctor in Orangeville, where I live, and the doctor here helped me get onto a medication called Suboxone, I think. Suboxone or naltrexone, one of those two. And she got me to wean down my drinking from 24 beers to 16 beers. Which is still a lot. I mean, 16 beers is still a lot of alcohol, and they were the tall cans, you know? But I managed to get my drinking down to the point where I wasn't at risk of having a seizure, and I was really happy about that. So 3 days before I actually went into rehab, I had one last bender. I'm a big wrestling fan, and I decided to watch one of the wrestling pay-per-views and just get loaded for that night. And I did, and I got loaded, and I even told my dad, I said, listen, I'm getting loaded tonight, but this is my last time ever getting loaded. So that's what I did, and when I went in with a clear mind. You know, I was 3 days sober, and what they do when you're at rehab is before you're allowed to really congregate with everybody, before you're really allowed to go to gym, before you're allowed to do any of the activities really, you have to have a one-on-one meeting with the doctors so they can properly assess you and they can properly put you in the correct placement for you. So a lot of the time when people just get there, they are still high or they are still drunk, because what a lot of people do is they'll show up to rehab and they'll use all their drugs in the parking lot right before they come in, so that they're still high for a good 12 hours when they come in, just to numb the pain of going in, I guess. So a lot of those people, they're sent to ward, and ward means you're basically not allowed to leave your room. You're monitored heavily by the nurses, and you're kind of on lockdown for the first week-ish. But if you go in like I went in, if you go in clean, and if you go in with like a really positive attitude, I told them, hey guys, I'm here, I'm ready to join the program, I'm ready to start, I'm ready to hit the gym, I'm ready to go to the garden, I'm ready to do all of the activities, let me start. And they were like, well, you seem pretty enthusiastic, you know? And I said, hey, I'm here to get better. My mind is in the right spot. Even though, like, I'm dying for a beer right now, I'm here to get better. So mentally, I was okay. And what was really nice is they let me just go off on the first day. They let me have full ground privileges on the first day. And that's great, because a lot of people don't get that. So once I got there, the very first thing that I started doing was introducing myself to people. I wanted to make sure that everybody in the rehab facility with me knew that I could be a person to turn to if they were having a hard time, if they were struggling. I was kind of like the ambassador of the program, because I had already done the program. I had already done the program a couple years earlier, so I had already gone through the fear, and the fear of not knowing what's going to happen, or the fear away from being away from home, or the fear away from your drug of choice, you know? I had already been through that, so I told the administrator there that I want an active role in helping people get acquainted to the hospital. So that's what I did. I spent the next week basically just introducing myself to every single person there and letting them know that if they need any help, or if they need somebody to talk to, or if they're scared or anything like that, they can come to me. And so for the first week, it went really well. I was really active. I think the first week is kind of like a honeymoon phase of quitting alcohol, where you're in this hospital and you know that you can't drink, so it kind of eases your pain a little bit, and it gives you a lot of confidence. Like, it gives you a hell of a lot of confidence. So like already by day 7, I was saying, I'm never gonna drink again, you know? And the nurses were like, whoa, Kyle, like, slow down, you know, don't get ahead of yourself, because you've got a long time here. So either way, I did the program. I enjoyed it. I had a bad roommate to start my time with. He was a real dick. I remember at the time, no, I won't bring that up. Either way, we didn't get along, and one thing that was really embarrassing for me is I have night terrors, right? And with my night terrors, I'll sometimes wake up screaming. And I remember it was like the second day that I was there, after 2 nights, and I remember he was moving out of my room, and I talked to the nurse, and I was like, where's he going? And she said, oh, he requested a room change. And I just had to laugh, you know, because I can imagine that we were probably lying in bed, not in the same bed, we were in the same room, and I'm just, you know, freaking out or something. scaring the bejesus out of my roommate. So he just hightailed it and left. But for the entire 6 weeks, this guy wouldn't look at me or talk to me or anything. I don't know what was wrong with this guy. And he would talk to everybody else. Like it wasn't like he had a mental problem or anything. He just did not like me. Whenever I'd walk into the room, he'd big scowl on his face. What a wiener. Either way. The first week was tough though. It was tough because all my nightmares started happening really bad. My nightmares went up to like 1,000. Because as I said, what I usually do is, what I used to do when I drank is I used to drink myself to sleep. And when I drank myself to sleep and I was blackout drunk, I wouldn't dream about anything. So it wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't dream. I wouldn't wake up from night terrors. It wouldn't bother me. But now that I was sober, I had to actually deal with it. And I had to actually relive a lot of that. Another thing that started happening was my memories started coming back. Now, very little bits of my memory, very traumatic things, but they did start to slowly come back over the 6 weeks. Because you got to remember, I've mentioned it on my channel before, because of my alcohol abuse, I lost the memory for about 10 years of my life. So I don't remember my 20s at all. I remember maybe 10 traumatic things that happened to me. I remember about 5 happy things that happened to me, and that's about it. You know, I really can't tell you what my 20s was like, because my 20s was a blur. That being said, once I was there and I got sober, I started having these horrible nightmares because a lot of the trauma that I had been pushing aside and pushing deep down inside of me because I wasn't ready to deal with it, it was ready to deal with me at that point, and that really scared me. So it took me, well, oh, my stutter, you guys, I'm sorry. I'm still dealing with it. I'm still dealing with it on a regular basis, and it just drives me up the wall. One thing that I can say about it is getting a little better. The more that I deal with my problems and the more that I, think about them and pray about them and the more that I reflect on them, they are getting better. But they still are pretty rough. They are still pretty rough. I've lived a pretty crazy life, you guys. I've lived a crazy life. I don't want to be another one of those people on YouTube that uses their bad experiences to garner sympathetic attention. I don't necessarily want you guys to feel bad for me. I just want you guys to understand that when I talk from a lot of experience. I'm only 31 years old, and I've lived through cancer, I've lived through alcoholism, I've lived through my mom dying, my Oma dying, my best friend dying, my dog dying, I've been through a lot of things in my life, and I tend to think that I'm a really strong person, but I feel terrible with my dreams because it makes me feel so incredibly weak. But other than that, my battery's about to die, so give me 1 second and I'll do a quick transition. Okay, now I'm back. As I was saying, I think that now that I'm sober and I'm dealing with my problems a bit better, my dreams are getting better, but they're still scary. But either way, so let me tell a little bit more about rehab. So when I was there, I wanted to be very active, and one thing that we did do a lot of was we played a lot of sports. We played a lot of sports. We had a full gym there, like a full gymnasium. We played volleyball, we played basketball. I actually was never good at basketball ever, and then I practiced there for 4 weeks and I became really good at basketball. It's surprising what you can accomplish in such a short amount of time. But there was also a music room, there was also a library, there was a horticulture room, and it was just this big green room that was inside the building, and we would go there and we would do all of these plant activities. We would plant, actually, you know what, let me show you something really cool. I have right here, it's been transplanted obviously, but This here was a plant that I planted when it was like this big. And what I actually did with it, maybe an idea for you guys is, did you guys know that ash is really good for plants? So we had a letter burning ceremony where we took all of our negative thoughts and we took all of the negative emotions that we had towards our drug of choice, and we wrote them down and we burned them. And what I did is I took my ashes from, I kept the ashes from the paper that I burned, and I put it into the soil, and it's helped grow my plant. So I like to look at this plant and know that it's growing from my sobriety, and it's growing from all of the pain that I gave away, you know. So that's cool. So we did lots of cool things like that. We had an art class. There were so many things that we did, and I wanted to be like in them. I wanted to just join everything I could. They were so surprised by my attitude because I was so gung-ho on just getting better, you know. They said that they've never seen somebody who was so determined to get better than me, and that was really inspiring for me. Another thing that was really nice about being there is after about the first week, we had this thing called group, where everybody would have about 45 minutes to themselves. We'd be in a group of about 10 people, and they'd have about 45 minutes to themselves, and we would just talk. We would talk about anything that's bothering us. We could talk about things that make us happy, things that make us sad. It didn't matter, because for 45 minutes, that was our time, and whatever we said was valid. And it was really nice because people started opening up, and it allowed me to open up. And I think it was on my 4th or 5th day where I came out and I said, hey guys, listen, I've never been able to admit this to anybody ever, not even my girlfriend, not my sister, who I love so much, but I'm bulimic, and I have an eating disorder, and I've had an eating disorder for about 3 years, and it's really bad. Like, my bulimia was so bad to the point where a lot of the teeth in the back of my mouth rotted away from throwing up so much. It was just gross, you know, and I feel for anybody out there who's dealing with a eating disorder, because it's rough. Even today, guys, even today, I'll be 100% honest with you. I didn't have a rough day at work, but there was something in my mind that just wanted me to binge, and I texted my loved one and I said, hey listen, I think that I'm going to binge tonight on food. And I tried my best, but I ended up going to McDonald's and ordering a Big Mac and 20 nuggets and a large fry and a chocolate milkshake, and I ate the entire thing. So I still deal with my eating disorder. Luckily I didn't purge though. I didn't bring it up. I just kept it down. But it's still not good. It's not good to do that. But what I'm trying to say is I actually ended up getting help with my eating disorder. I ended up talking to a dietitian, and what they actually did was they put me in not in the program, but they basically worked me in the program with them. So for example, I didn't go down to the cafeteria for lunch or dinner for about 3 or 4 weeks. For the first 3 or 4 weeks while I was there, I ate in my room. The nurses would bring the food up on a tray, and you would get called at 5:15, and you would just go and pick up your tray. And because I had bulimia, because I had an eating disorder, I basically had to eat in front of a nurse. I had to eat in front of the nurse, and I would get everything down, and then after that, we would sit and we would talk for about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and we would just talk about feelings and everything like that. But because I got there, I was able to deal with something that I never even thought I would bring up to anybody. I never thought that it would be a topic that I'd bring up, because I thought that that would have been a secret that I kept forever, because I didn't want any of my friends or my family members to know that I have an eating disorder. Another thing that really drove me nuts about it was I didn't think anybody would believe me, because when I was drinking, I was completely delusional. I was telling lies about everything. So if I told a lie about having an eating disorder, I don't think anybody would take me serious. So I just kept it to myself. And then once I was finally comfortable enough, I talked about it. And now I made my weight. I've always wanted to be 185 pounds. And just last week I made 185 pounds, so I'm really happy about that. But getting back to my stay, we did a lot of activities. We did a lot of pottery, we did a lot of painting, we did a lot of board games, a lot of table tennis. As I said, we had a gym, so a lot of people worked out. There was also ping pong tables, pool tables, massage chairs. I remember the massage chairs was part of gym time, so I had to decide whether to work out or whether to just sit in the chair and get a massage for 45 minutes. And most of the time, I just sat in the chair. I didn't even bother working out. I just wanted a massage. But it was good. And we had a nice little group too. Like, when you're there, you become part of a little family. You know, you're not alone when you go there. You're part of the group whether you like it or not, because you're living with these people. You're going to be living with these people for up to 45 days if you come in on the same day, you know? So you might as well be as nice as you can to everybody, and good things will come back. You know? I was so nervous the first couple days, but after that, not at all. Like, with the people, there would be times where it would be like 8 o'clock, all of our classes were done, and I'd walk into the lounge, into the sports lounge, because yes, there's a sports lounge in rehab. I'd walk into the sports lounge and everybody would be like, "Hey, Kai, hey, you know, we got a seat for you," you know? So it's good to make friends there, and it's not hard to make friends there, because again, you're all there for the same reason. It doesn't matter what your drug of choice is, you're all there because of addiction, you know? There was a couple scary things that I saw though. Like, I saw fights, I believe they were called code whites. Whenever a code white came up over the speaker, you know that somebody was getting attacked, or a nurse was getting attacked. There was one terrible thing, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that scene ever, where there was a guy in the cafeteria, and he must have pissed off the wrong person, because I was sitting there and he was maybe 20 seats in front of me, and he was just sitting there alone eating his meal, and somebody came up to him and threw like a cup of boiling water right on his face, and then a guy from, like, that was walking right behind him grabbed him by the neck and threw him to the ground and started beating on him, you know? That was really scary. Because they called it code white, and it took like a good minute and a half for anybody to show up. I might be exaggerating, but it took a while. It took a while for it to show up. And it just wasn't nice. There was also fights out in the yard over basketball or over tennis or over things like that. But, you know, no offense, but when you take two drug addicts who haven't had their drugs in 3 days and they're completely strung out, and they try and fight each other, it's really sad, but it's also really funny. You know, because they can't do anything. They can't hurt each other. It's like watching two 90-year-old men fight each other. It's just not. It's kind of funny, but they shouldn't be doing it. But other than that, it was good. One thing that I did get caught, I got caught smoking, and you're not allowed to smoke, at least in Canada. In Canada, you're not allowed to smoke on any hospital ground, and that was considered a hospital, so there was no smoking. The no smoking thing drove me up the wall, because, you know, I was totally fine with giving up alcohol. That's what I was there to do. Um, it's what I was there to do. But when they called me like 3 days before I was being admitted, and they said, "Oh, by the way, this is an alcohol-free, not obviously alcohol-free. This is a tobacco-free hospital. You're not allowed to smoke here." I almost blew a gasket because immediately I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do?" Because the first time that I went to the same rehab facility, you were allowed to smoke all you wanted. You could smoke all day as long as you weren't in your class. You could go outside and smoke all day. It didn't matter. And I was anticipating that because I figured, you know what, if I don't have my alcohol, at least I can still smoke a cigarette. But no, I wasn't allowed to. So I ended up bringing with me like 4 or 5 packs of smokes, and I hid them all over my room. And for the first like 4 days, I didn't get caught at all. And then one day I had to take a nap because I was just so tired, and I did the stupidest thing, and I just left my lighter outside of my pocket on my desk. And the nurse came in to check on everybody, and she saw my lighter, and she said, "Okay, Kyle, now we have to search everything that you brought in. We have to search the room." And I'm like, "Can I just give you what I brought?" And she's like, "No, we have to search the room." And I'm like, "Look, here is what I have. I have 2 packs of smokes. I have a lighter here. Take it. Don't rip apart my room." And she's like, "Okay, okay." And she took it. She took it, and I still had 2 packs of smokes left. And then it wasn't even the next day. Later on that day, I left another lighter on the table, and then they did the big search, and they found all my smokes, and they took my smokes away. And I was so pissed off because I didn't know what to do, because I was expected to quit alcohol. I wasn't expected to quit cigarettes. And I didn't want to quit cigarettes. And to this day, I enjoy smoking cigarettes. I know it's bad for you, but it's something that I enjoy. Give me a break. I've been through a lot, okay? That being said, now I didn't have any smokes, and it was rough because everybody else was still smoking. They just hadn't been caught yet. So what I ended up doing was I talked to the nurse, and they got me on every single nicotine supplement that you could possibly have. I was chewing gum. I had the patches on. I had the spray. I had the inhaler. I had so much nicotine going into me that I had more nicotine in me in rehab than I did in my civilian life. But it did get me through, and it helped a lot. I can't imagine I would have lasted more than a week in there doing all the hard things I was doing without a smoke. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it makes me look weak. I'm sorry. I just wasn't expecting it. Going on even further, things went well. Things went really well. I think that if you go into rehab with the same intention that I did, if you go into rehab wanting to change, you're not going to have any problems at all. You know, a lot of people, and even if you look up the review of the reviews of the rehab facility that I went to, it was called Homewood Health Center in Guelph, Ontario. The reviews for that place aren't good. But if you actually read the reviews, they're all from disgruntled patients that ended up getting in trouble for not following the rules and then got in trouble for it. And that's why they're mad in their reviews. I gotta tell you, I didn't have a single problem with anybody in the hospital. People were constantly complaining about the nurses, and they were always getting into trouble, but it was their fault. They were constantly doing things that would get them in trouble. The nurse would call them on it, and then they would get mad at the nurse for being mean to them. It was so stupid. But you gotta remember, addicts are very childish. So when you take away an addict's drugs and put them all together in a room where they depend on the nurses for everything, there's a lot of like codependency that happens with it, you know? But other than that, I would say that if you want to go to rehab, there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about. You're going to meet a bunch of good people. And if you go in with the good intentions, if you go in with the right intentions, then you're going to do fine. You're going to meet a lot of people, though, that aren't there for the right intentions. There were so many people doing drugs and drinking at the rehab facility that I was at, and it was because they didn't care. It was because they didn't care. A lot of these people were there because their company sent them. You gotta remember, I didn't go to a public rehab facility. I went to a private rehab facility. Now again, I have to say this every time. I am not rich. My family is not rich. My Oma used her life savings, the last of it, to send me and to get help. She wanted me to go to that specific one. She wanted me to get help. That's why I could afford it. But I'm not rich by any means. That being said, a lot of the people that were there, the companies that they worked for paid for it. The companies that they worked for said, hey, listen, go give this a try, or hey, like, your job depends on you completing this program. It doesn't necessarily depend on them staying sober forever. They just have to get through that program, you know? There was also a lot of people there that were drinking, as I said. It was really easy to drink there because what they would do is they would bring us up juice boxes, but the juice boxes were like a liter size. So what people would do is they would just drink a couple sips out of it, and then get ingredients from the cafeteria and make liquor out of it, make like prison wine out of it. They just let it ferment for, I don't know, 10 to 14 days. I don't know how long it takes to make. I didn't participate in it. But there was people there doing that. And you want to stay away from those people. If you can stay away from those people, you're going to have a fine time. As I said, if you go in with the intention to quit, you're going to quit. Because what they teach you there will make you an expert on it. It's basically like going to university for addiction for 6.5 weeks, and you come out much smarter, and you come out clean. So, yeah, that's about it really. It was a good time. It was scary for sometimes because I missed my family. I was worried about the future. I was worried about whether or not I would be able to remain sober. But today it's day like 426, so I'm doing really well. I've managed to stay sober the entire time, and that means the world to me. Also, the food there was really good. I don't know about the food where you're going, if you're going to a place, but generally the food is pretty good because you need to have good morale in rehab. You have to have good morale, and one part of morale is eating. They even in the army they have good food because it's part of morale. If everybody feels good after they eat, or if they are excited for dinner, it's much better than being depressed all the time because you're going to have a crappy meal, So the food is good. I would say just go in there, try your best to be as social as you can, because it'll really help you deal with missing your family. It'll really help you deal with being away from everybody. My rule of thumb is say hello to everybody all the time. Say hello every time you walk by somebody. Because the first time they'll say hello back, and then the second and third and fourth time they'll say hello back, and then the fifth time they'll ask you how you're doing, and then by the 10th time that you said hello to them, you're friends and you're talking about your day and stuff like that. So it's a great place to meet friends. I still am in contact with 4 or 5 of the people that I went to rehab with. As I've said on the channel before, unfortunately, 3 of the people have passed away that I went to rehab with, which is a stark reminder to myself that I never can relapse, because I can relapse just like they did and be dead, and I don't want to do that because I have a lot of potential in this world. One day I want to have kids, one day I want to get married. I have a lot of potential and I want to reach it. So for that reason, I'll never drink again. And that's about it, guys. My time in rehab was short, but it was important. It was the most important 45 days of my life. And I'm really glad that I got out of it, and I'm really glad that I'm safe now. And I want to thank you guys so much. I want to thank you guys for listening to my story. If you managed to listen to the whole thing, that means so much to me, because I never thought that I would be able to do this kind of stuff. I never thought that I'd be able to be so consistent. I never thought that I'd be able to dedicate myself to something. So I'm really glad that I'm doing this YouTube thing. So thank you again so much. And if you have a loved one who's going through addiction, share my story with them. It might inspire them. I know that I've inspired quite a few people already. You guys send me messages all the time. I really appreciate it. Let's get that word out there. Let's get my message out there a little bit more. I really appreciate it. Other than that, this video is going to take me a long time to edit, so it'll probably only be up tomorrow, tomorrow. But whenever it does come up, I hope you enjoy it, and wherever you are in the whole wide world, please be safe, please be sober, and if you're not being sober, that's totally fine. Guys, you can recover if you're an addict. You can get better. Don't let anybody tell you that you will never amount to anything, because you can. Trust me. I thought that it would take me 10 years to accomplish the things that I have accomplished in the last year, and not even a year. Well, just over a year. Just over a year. It took me just over a year to accomplish the things that I made goals for 10 years to accomplish. So put that into perspective, if you will. Guys, I'm going. Have a wonderful night. I have over 136 bloopers that I'm editing right now into a blooper reel. So look out for that. I'm very excited to release that. I think I'm going to release that on Christmas Day. I think that'll be my Christmas Day video. Other than that, bye guys. Have a wonderful night.